The job market is much brutal. The hiring system is also completely broken. If you're not moving fast, upgrading yourself with new skills, you're already getting left behind.
The onus on managing careers is no longer on the employer, it's on the employee. Today, each employee has to fend for himself or herself. People are now changing jobs once in 2-3 years. We are now going to a skill-based economy where your child and my child will probably work with 3 or 4 companies at the same time. Therefore, the loyalty is not to an employer, but to your own profession, to your own career.
If you were to describe the job market in 2026 in one word, what would that be?
A T20 match. Cricket has always been the same. They had 11 players. You had specialists then. But now the rules have changed so much. When we grew up, we had an excellent bowler, Dilip Doshi, who could not bat for nuts. Today, if you are just a specialist, you are a liability.
How do I then now come out of it and make sense or be relevant in the world that is operating? And am I even using the right playbook to operate?
So now this is becoming a very tricky thing because you are used to a career where you are getting promotion every 2-3 years with very little effort, and suddenly the organizational pyramid is not only becoming smaller, but on the other side, we also have a matrix organization where there are enough senior leader positions. So it becomes a survival of the fittest.
You speak to a lot of senior leaders. One thing that they do or they say that makes you feel that they are not ready yet.
Denial that AI is another fad. It's probably one of those once in a 100-year kind of a thing. Just like how electricity changed, how internet changed.
This AI will change. Yes.
It will change. Workers are going to change. Workplace also will change. We can't just ignore it. We are already behind time.
Look, the days of working for 40 years in one company, getting a gold watch, and retiring peacefully is gone. Today, the job market is much brutal. If you're not moving fast, upgrading yourself with new skills, you're already getting left behind. Right now, the hiring system is also completely broken. Companies want the best talent for themselves, but are getting stuck because of the old archaic 90-day notice periods. On the flip side, candidates are all applying to hundreds of jobs every week, but are unable to figure out what happened to their applications because they are going into an AI black hole. To break this down, I have a very special guest today on the Career Shift podcast, Achyut, AK as he's famously known. He's been in the recruitment industry since 1992. He was placing candidates before most of us even knew what startup meant or what internet was. He's been through the Y2K boom, the 2008 crash, and he's now watching the AI wave flip the world upside down. Today, as we are talking about this very important conversation, we are going to explore the real reasons why your interview process is not working the way it should, why small companies are unable to find the right talent, and why the current job market looks less like test match, but much more like a T20 game. So if you're an organization or if you're a founder trying to hire the right person or a professional trying not to become obsolete, you need to hear this. AK, welcome to the show. I know this was in conversations for a long time. We have exchanged notes about a lot of things that is happening today in the world of work. We have had several conversations, perhaps in multiple forums, that we have shared platforms about the world of work as well. But I thought the times that we're living in today is very different than how it used to be. Perhaps when we started talking to each other, and I remember vaguely that we connected in 2020 when COVID had just started, and we were both pulled into a webinar and we had shared our thoughts on how COVID is affecting the world of work. But today there is a lot that is changing, a lot that is happening around us. And I think it's very important for people listening into this conversation to take away, firstly, understand what's happening from your lens, and also take away some, interesting insights, anecdotes that they can reflect and work upon. The whole journey for me in the podcast started with a simple mission mantra, is if you can call, of how can we offer value to people for anything to do with their careers. Now, this could be someone who is just coming out of college. This could be someone who is in their mid career, or this could be someone who is even in their early 50s, mid 50s, trying to figure out what next for them. And with all the inflation and the recession fears, what happens to the corpus that they may have kept in mind. But before we get into all of that, I would like to go back to your journey. There will be a lot of people listening into this podcast who may have connected with you at some point of time in their career, but there are a lot of people who may not have any knowledge about where you started, how you started. I know for a fact that you also had roots to Bombay. How did that journey begin?
Thanks, Gopal, for giving me this opportunity. I've been an avid listener of or watcher of all the podcasts you brought in, some very interesting people. And I'm really flattered that you deem it useful to have me also on this call. I kind of, like many other people, drifted into recruitments not by design, okay, more out of default. I'm probably the oldest living recruiter today. I'm 64 now. And so I kind of grew up in the pre liberalization era. And those days, the only opportunities for people were to be a good doctor or an engineer. I have this unique, distinguished, if I were to say, record where I would have written all the engineering entrance exams in India. I also happened to study. I was a central school student, so never could make up my mind of whether to pursue maths or biology. So I did both, and probably wrote all the medical entrance exams. Didn't crack either. Okay, and then the next best bet was to become an MBA. I keep comparing notes. I was the only guy in 1982 who got called by I am A, I am B, I am C. That's all they were at that time. Made through the entrance exam, got to the group discussion, and unique distinction of being rejected on all of them. so,
Their loss, their loss.
so I really didn't have any choices. So I think it was Mumbai University, which kind of, I used to call it Bombay University then. And I had gone there to university. Bajaj was the place I wanted to write the exam. And I think I still suspect it was quite out of compassion that Chetna offered me a MMS then, because I was again among the topper in terms of the entrance exam, and neither NM or Bajaj or SPJN took me. Well, so most of my choices were not by design, by default, and even then the broad chances were that one could join. Finance was out of it because I would compete with chartered accountants. Operations was basically for engineers. HR, as it was called then, then it was industrial relations. And 82 to 83, around that time when I went, there was Datta Samant had to speak. I never had even thought, widest of dreams that I'll get into IR and be in the strikes part. So I took the easy way out, sales and marketing. And so did my MMS in sales and marketing. Coming from a small town, Hyderabad, which was probably known for pearls and biryani. Okay, Bombay, I was really fish out of water. I couldn't understand the pace or the urgency and stuff like that. So all I knew that I had a great opportunity to get into the best companies. My dream company was Levers, and I couldn't get into it either. But I remember reading the then Hindustan Lever chairman, Thomas, who mentioned about the future is rural marketing. Okay, and so my dream was to get into Levers as a rural marketing guy. And so my first choice of career was primarily to get in by hook or crook to Levers through the rural marketing area. So I was a sales guy selling fertilizers, pesticides, 9 years till 91. And then I did get the chance to get into Levers, or rather, more appropriately, it was Lipton at that time, because it was still in the Levers thing. And that's when it struck me. Rural marketing meant I had to be, every day I would get up and be in a small town Okay, I look out a window and figure out which particular place was that. By then, I'd already been a regional sales manager for South, youngest regional manager, and selling to fertilizers, pesticides, all kind of a thing. But I never loved that because personally, I'm of a guy who loves reading, loves sharing information, thinking in English. And that was when I got a job in Lipton that I realized, hey, I must think in terms of doing something which I want to do. And that's been the motto of my life. Find out what you love doing most and then get somebody to
Wow.
pay you for that. But that is easier said than done. Back in '92, India was a pre-liberalized world,
Yeah.
and there were hardly any jobs. Okay, you had the PSUs, the banks, and probably a handful of companies in Hyderabad, or even Hyderabad. I mean, I belong to Hyderabad, so I've always wanted to find a job there, and couldn't get into any of those agencies. ABC was the biggest agency, but even though they had 7 offices, they never thought I was good enough to sell anything other than rural sales. Okay, so I thought the next best thing to do was start a recruitment agency. Okay, and again, this time my motto was help others find their calling. I thought I was smart enough. Okay, and if I had to struggle for a career, okay, then probably I could help other people remove the cobwebs part of it. So stupid at that point of time because fortunately the salaries were very low back in '92, and I always thought I could earn more outside of the corporate life. Things are not so today. Today you got to decide a lot before you quit. Hats off to you, Gopal, for leaving companies like EY and all that to follow your passion. Yeah. So, but having made the choice of starting options in 1992, okay, I had no option but to make it happen.
Start options.
Make it happen. So
Sure.
yeah, so I have a very long answer to a short question, but I've been very fortunate that '92 was a great time because liberalization happened. Then multinational companies started coming to India, and they used to hire people for merit. Suddenly, job hopping became necessary, and more and more greenfield companies were coming in. So they all wanted good, great people. I was still an imposter to industry because I'm I'm not a HR guy. I still think I'm a sales guy. Okay? I'm selling candidates to companies and selling companies to candidates. But fortunately, everything has fallen in place. Every 4 or 5 years, things have happened. New greenfield industries have come. And yeah, on the other side, technology changed. And there was no email, there was no mobile, there was no internet. Okay, one had to constantly pivot every 4 or 5 years. And so I think I still retain my youthful energy. And even my kids tell me to behave my age now. So if this gives you a context of why I do what I do, it
Yeah.
probably would have said a
Yeah.
lot.
No, I think amazing journey. And one of the names that you took was that of Datta Samant. And he was a name that a lot of people will not really associate for good reasons. A lot of people may associate them for whatever reasons best known. But in the Bombay industrial belt, he was a name. I remember that name very well because my dad used to work in Automobile Products of India Limited, which was a big factory, which had a big factory in Bhandup in Mumbai. And as the 80s progressed, there were a lot of industrial unrests, and the name often associated with those unrests were this name. So, and yeah, what a phenomenal journey. I mean, 92, of course, is the time when India opened its door. A lot happened. 2000 was another such with Y2K. 2008 was with the crisis that we saw from a financial market standpoint. 2020, as we all know, because of COVID, and we are here somewhere in the middle of 2026, still trying to figure out what does it take to reinvent ourselves. So, hats off to you. I think having survived and thrived in your own way to create options for people.
All this abundance is,
Yeah,
can be understood much better. Okay, so we are much
absolutely.
better off today with the kind of tools we have. I mean, it's
Yeah,
surprising that we are sitting I mean, the internet itself, or even kind of the Wi-Fi,
absolutely.
all this is making the world a very level playing ground today. It hardly matters whether you're in India or US, except for the currency part. But I think
Yeah,
it's never been a more level playing ground ever. Okay,
yeah,
so yeah, and I think more and more I look at it. I'm blessed to be in this uh, era where we've gone from a developing country to now we're probably fighting for the fourth or fifth GDP part of it. And I'm also glad that by default, okay, even though I was not a HR guy then, I think with finance and technology now being equal level playing grounds, the human capital is going to be the difference between good companies and great companies. And I'm very,
yeah,
very fortunate that both of us are very much intertwined in
yeah,
managing enabling the
yeah.
best of humans.
Nice place to be in for sure. But also, it comes at the backdrop of a lot of challenge that people are going through, and I think perhaps 2026 is no different than what it used to be in 1990s or 80s when we all started. And if you were to really look at the way jobs were done, people would apply to, there would be a vacancy, people would apply to those jobs by submitting their curriculum vitae, as they would call them, with a application letter, and it would go for one job. You will see a lot of applications coming in. Mostly in a week's time, they would put a large board called no vacancy across all the big companies. All that has happened in the last 4 decades of the world of evolution of jobs is the behavior still remains the same. One job, so many applications, and then people pull down the job postings from the LinkedIn's and the Naukris of the world. I want to kind of ask you, if you were to look at evolution of people applying for jobs, as a person who has been in the field of providing jobs to people or connecting the two parties, which is one is the applicant to the organization willing to hire, what has changed, or has anything changed, if at all? Would like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think a great question. A lot of things have changed,
Mm,
primarily because of the context. Okay, like
mm,
I told you about uh, third world country then, and now we are a borderless world. Okay,
yeah,
so I think in the last 30 years, um, technology has made the maximum number of disruptions, and as a result, even businesses, the mortality rates has changed a lot. If
yeah,
earlier the Fortune 100 companies lasted, say, 30, 40 years in the Fortune list, today it's less than 15 years. So when the
yeah,
mortality rates of organizations itself is so pathetic, the the onus on managing careers is no longer on the employer, it's on the employee. Today each
correct,
employee has to fend for himself or herself. Earlier, I
correct.
mean, your dad, and I remember reading a whole lot that your dad and your mother probably never thought of changing a job. They joined an employer
Never.
and retired. Okay,
Yeah,
and even I, probably in that 10 years of industry, 9 years of industry experience in the 80s, I worked in just two companies. Okay, and I think come fast forward to today, it is very rare that you find somebody who stayed more than 2 to 3 years, because you even attribute saying that he's not good enough for another role.
yeah.
So I guess the primary thing is the power of choice has gone away from the employer to the employee. I think
Mm,
that's the single largest change which has happened. And now with internet and the kind of opportunities, the onus is purely on individuals to upskill themselves and manage their own careers. And if need be, forget changing jobs, even change careers multiple times over a period of your lifetime.
mm.
And given the, again, technology and the science, the average lifespan has gone up from 60, 65. And God forbid, we can continue living till 80, 85. Our children probably 100. which basically means that one has to work for longer, one has to be more relevant for much longer. And what worked in the past is definitely not going to give you any insurance for more than 4 or 5 years. So that is primarily the biggest worry and the challenge, but also the opportunity. Okay,
Yeah.
and we've also looked at how you alluded to this earlier. Workers and workplace has changed. If earlier all the people had to go where the opportunity was, the talent had to go where the opportunity was, the big cities, metros. Today we are at a cusp where opportunity will come where the talent is. Okay,
Mm.
and thanks to, forget the blips in pandemic or the trust deficit, which now make companies want people come back to office. Okay, I still feel there is a merit in a lot of people working remotely and working at a hybrid kind of a thing. If work can be sent from US to India, I don't see any reason why it could be sent from Hyderabad to say Nirmal or Adipatla or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are
Well,
amid some greatest of changes, and so we've got to constantly reinvent. Okay, I think that's the primary thing.
I kind of agree. I think this is a question that I always kept asking, and even people keep asking me, as if work can come from US to India, and we are able. I mean, we are able to trust that the work will get done. Why is it so that we are worrying about the work coming from Bangalore to Chennai, or yeah, maybe the worry is that the work gets stuck between Silkport and because of traffic.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous because so much of energy and
Yeah,
productivity is locked for nothing. I don't know whose ego. Okay, seriously. Okay, I still feel it's a major. Um, I felt let down by a lot of the HR people because we had a very good opportunity post pandemic when companies were ready to shift the work from office to home. I can't believe why they had to get it back, even if it's 3 days a week or 2 days a week or now 5 days a week, because work was happening. Okay, it was only a matter
yeah,
of a trust deficit, and there were a lot other ways to manage that trust or empower people than to force them to work in a particular manner. So
yeah,
I see it as there was a great opportunity for HR as a fraternity to have stood up and transform the
yeah.
way companies worked. And that's my personal regret. Okay, I keep telling you.
Yeah. Personally speaking, I'm sure each organization has a different view, but I feel the reasons are a lot beyond HR. Number one,
Yeah,
it's a business driven move, and businesses always have one, the economics in mind. And when the cost of operations goes down, it is not a good sign because then they have to reduce their cost to the clients as well, which perhaps is not something that they would want to do. So, in order to maintain the cost of operations at a particular level, so that we remain competitive in a different way, I guess it is important for us to show swanky offices and people working in those offices. So, I guess that could be one of the reasons. And I'm sure there are other
yeah, I'm sure
reasons
that
that perhaps
beyond
we
our
may not be able to speak on this one on a podcast like this. But having said that, I mean, we spoke about the changes in the people perspective. What have you seen change in the organizations, like from a business standpoint or hiring manager standpoint? Has anything evolved? And if yes, for good or for bad? I mean, what are your views on that?
going by the earlier um, analogy,
Mm.
talent goes where the opportunity is. Today, I think organizations also have a choice of hiring beyond a pin code or beyond a particular geography.
Correct.
And that's a, earlier you had to make do with whoever was the best available within a particular radius. Okay, but
Correct.
I guess now um, any company can have access to the best talent globally. That's the
Mm.
it opens up a lot of opportunities, and that's the
Yeah,
biggest democratic advantage anybody has got. Okay.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, okay, you work a lot with people. So let's talk about it one by one. So one, a lot of NRIs who either are in their mid careers or early to senior careers wanting to come back, and wanting to come back could be due to various reasons, right? One is they've gone there, they've achieved everything that they have to achieve within a span of time. They feel that given their kids' choices, the career choices that they are making, they would want to be back in India, and hence they would want to be back. Two, in the current scenario, with the way the jobs are going, there may be layoffs, there may be people may get, suddenly told that, we are no longer sponsoring your H1B. That leaves people with no option but to come back. Three, it could be that very rare perhaps, but still the feeling that no, I think India is better placed in terms of opportunities. Now, what have you been personally observing in this particular population? How is it that they are able to, one, find opportunities, two, adjust into those opportunities? So if you can just spend a little bit time on that particular population to begin with, and list down maybe one, two, three opportunities and one, two, three challenges, and what could be something that will be of value to this population. So the next time when someone is reaching out to you, they would be able to know what they should be thinking about.
Sure. Yeah, let me break it down to some specific periods. Okay, I would like
Sure.
to believe that there are two or three eras in this whole thing. One is
Sure.
say 1995 to say 2010, and then we
Sure.
could see 2010 to say 2018. I'll explain to you why, and then what's happened in the recent 10 years. Okay, so like I said, having grown up in the pre-liberalized India, okay, I think back then all the opportunities were in the West. Okay, so the best of students, the best of um professionals went to the West for better opportunities, and I think it was around. Well, of course, you alluded to Y2K was the single most one episode which helped the whole world know about the technical power, prowess of the Indian IT engineer part of it.
Correct.
And I too kind of stumbled on this niche of returning Indian, as you mentioned, back in 1998 when India just finished the 50th independence. And there was a lot of euphoria about even the Indians being abroad, talking nostalgically about India. And believe me, everybody did go to US, okay, for higher studies, and then had taken loans, probably wanted to get a certain kind of a kitty to take care of the loans and then come back to India. And I remember back in 98, there was a website called Return to India, and I happened to be serendipitously the moderator for jobs there. The major discussion was, yes, we want to come back to India, but not now. N+1 was the thing. Every year, people had a target. Okay, probably then they wanted only $500,000 to be saved, and then once they reach that, they will come back to India. And but it was a very unique thing that everybody talked about. Okay, a year from now, I'll come back to India. That kind of was a kind of a thing. So back then, why people came back to India was primarily for personal reasons. Okay, but it's interesting. You asked me a little. The questions haven't changed back then and now. Okay, it's always about what kind of salary will I get, what is the culture fit, okay, and what's the career trajectory when I come back to India. Okay, but between then and now, the infrastructure has totally changed, and that's where the whole game becomes more exciting. Okay, so if I were to go back, say to early 2000, okay, when an NRI would probably call me back and say, look, what kind of roles will I get in India? Okay, and primarily what used to happen is at that point of time, people came purely for personal reasons. It was almost like a social obligation for them because one of their parents was getting old, okay,
Yeah.
and they felt bad, or they had growing children who felt that the children must be brought up in India. So it was a personal decision, and then optimizing that, okay, we need to come back to India, and because we are from this region or that region, look at opportunities in this part of the world, and they settled down. They were not very ambitious, but the price in coming back, the price was coming back to India itself, no ability to come back. So that was the kind of attitude then. Okay, and but fast forward today, what's happening is today everybody in US or UK are conscious that probably India is growing faster than those countries, and so therefore the opportunities are possibly better. And whenever we talk about, we are looking at a lifespan, I mean, of a career span of 10 to 20 years. So the opportunity cost of being in a place where growth isn't as fast as in India, they are probably missing out. So if earlier people were returning because they had to, today they are coming because they find the opportunities better and faster and more potential here. That's the primary mindset difference. And this is so from the demand side also. Okay, employers in those days, initially the idea was, prior to say 2000, we had expat jobs, and companies used to, whenever multinational companies set up operations in a new country, they would send somebody on a deputation for 2 years or 3 years, expat salaries, international schools. The cost was pretty much, and after, by the time they got adjusted to this thing, they pulled back. So I used to pitch returning Indians saying that, hey, these are a bunch of people who are keen to come back to India, and they have a longer runway. So culturally they're fit, and so you'll have a better ROI if you were to employ them. Okay? But even then, the questions with the employer asked then was, hey, will he fit into, has he been away from India for too long? Is there a culture fit? Okay, can he get work done in India? Today, the whole thing is gone. Okay, now India is probably the happening place, and not only by virtue of our large markets, huge population, even geographically. I think if you look at 5 hours this side is Australia, 5 hours that side is Europe, and America is there. So as a hub too, India isn't a place which can be easily ignored, because China is still out of bound for a lot of people. Okay, so India is definitely a good center of gravity for most businesses to grow. Okay, and if in the past employers will send a B team player to run their Indian operations, today I can see they're definitely going to send A team players to grow India or thing. And of course, so this is the broad section, if I were to say, between then, say 1995, when Indian talent was first recognized. So this more or less the same thing till 2005, 2010. Then I think around 2015, 16, the startups started coming in, FDI started coming in. A lot of Indian Indian companies started growing beyond India. Okay, the opportunities were great, and of course, even within India, you had the Jan Dhan Aadhaar and all that kind of a thing, which kind of made the level playing ground. No longer was India A2, 3 kind of a thing, but a huge market. And then, say in the 2017-18 onwards, we've seen the influx of GCCs coming in. Not just branch offices of foreign companies, but now very much the engines of growth, the centers of excellence for various, be it AI or R&D or whatever. So the work itself has changed. Therefore, the quality of the workers are changing. Okay, and therefore the opportunities, both demand and supply, has changed. Okay, I hope.
Absolutely. But when you look at the kind of people in the recent past, and I'm going to pick you on the point that you made about when in the past people would want to come back to India, it's more from a personal reason standpoint. Today, there is the idea or the thought that India is growing faster. And that's why we should be part of this game of growth in India. But it also comes with a lot of set of expectations, right? There are some assumptions being made about, okay, how fast is India growing actually? What are the kind of roles that are coming to India? And when you really look at it, actually with a honest pair of eyes and see, okay, what are the opportunities that are available in the Western countries or perhaps even Southeast Asian and Asian countries versus what is coming into India in terms of roles, the nature of work itself is very different, right? So one of the mandates for a leader of the organization in India is to manage people. And here we talk about hundreds and thousands of people at a site leader level. Versus the same person sitting in the US or Europe or Australia would perhaps be managing it slightly differently, right? When you talk to these NRIs who would want to come back to India, what is the biggest difference in understanding do you see in them? Like, do you see them fully aware about how is India growing, at what pace, what are the challenges that they see, or are they completely oblivious to all of that and just are looking at the opportunity based on the news that they are getting and want to make this change? Like, what level of preparation do they have or do they lack perhaps?
Yeah, I think you touched on a very raw nerve. Okay, and I think there is definitely a lot of media hype in all this. Okay, and I think
Yeah.
it picks up in, say, November, December, when the campus hires are mentioned. Some IIT or
Yeah.
some IIM, a 20-year-old guy, 22-year-old guy getting a 1 crore salary hits the newspapers like nobody, and suddenly you have somebody in America calling me and saying, "Hey, if a fresher is getting 1 crore, I'm 15 years experience. Okay, what do you think I can get?" Okay. So I guess it's the wrong reason and for looking at opportunities. But yes, the kind of roles which have been coming, they have been steadily, the quality has been going up. Okay, and interestingly, if you look at the kind of primarily they're all driven by IT to begin with, because like I said, Y2K exposed India's underbelly as far as the talent as well as the talent pipeline of engineers.
Yeah.
So offshoring happened. I think it was first the BFSI segment. All of the big banks started setting up in India. Then the automotive
Yeah.
industry came in, the pharmaceutical industry came in, and so now we've kind of reached a situation that most Fortune 2000 companies have operations in India in whatever way, either their own partners, JVs, back offices, or whatever. So they're aware of the kind of talent available and opportunities available. But if you were to fast forward to today, I personally feel even the jobs which are in demand 2-3 years back is no longer there right now. Okay. So if when you look at back in the past, a lot of IT services companies would hire returning Indians just for the client facing roles, or just for understanding the culture of the clients, just for understanding how to communicate and set expectations on both the client side and the internal side. But today, with AI and ML and stuff like that, and a lot of analytics, you don't need managers per se to herd people or to manage stuff. Okay, now the quality, we can actually see the difference between the high-end jobs and the middle manager jobs, and that is where there is a lot of confusion. Okay, people don't realize that. Frankly, it's not the competency; it's the ability to translate the kind of experience they have to roles which are now opening up here, and that's where I think this entire change is going to happen. There needs to be somebody who can set expectations on both the employer side and the employee side. And my biggest challenge is to um, demystify that hey, you know what they would say, hey, you know what, 4 years back you only placed half a dozen people of the calls come like that. Hey, Achyut, I'm Narayan. Okay, you placed Venkat and Srinivas and this, and they've been telling me about you for so long. I never thought of coming back to India. Okay, I'm a colleague. Okay, now can you help me find a job now? I said between 5 years back and today, the
There's
nature
a
of
lot
jobs
that's
has gone.
changed.
Okay, the bar has gone up. The kind of exposure has gone up. Okay, and so therefore, the kind of competencies required for roles in India also have changed. Some of the clients, they tell me that they're looking for leaders in India. It is just incidental that they are based in India. Otherwise,
Mm.
they do everything which the leader ought to
Global.
have done in Europe or America. Okay,
Mm. Mm.
and now the kind of an extra quiver in the arrow they want is, okay, we set up our India office, we grow to say 500 people. How do we go from say 500 to 1000? Okay, can
Mm.
we have multiple centers within India, or do you have experience in setting up another center, say in Philippines or Vietnam or Budapest or whatever? So for the same role, if I were to map, if I were to take the JD, say 10 years back and today, same role, same title, the specs are changing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so it's not just a question of transplanting one person here. Okay. Because the odds to succeed are going to be much higher than earlier. So that's the thing. So I think the speed of change is fast. And well, even if you look at, there was a time where 2015 where I talked about startups, and even Silicon Valley companies, when they funded startups in Silicon Valley, they said they
Mm.
wanted to have a India outfit. And only those people who had a back office in India would had they could stretch the dollar much more. They could probably hire 2 3 people here than compared to there.
Yeah.
Okay, but today it's no longer a cost arbitrage. Okay, today the kind of salaries, if you have gone up in India. Okay, and so they don't come to India for saving money, but probably they come here to gain access to a larger pipeline of talent. In fact, I'm part of an international recruiter network, so I have over 500 partners in 6 continents. I can see even Europe, okay, say a country like Portugal, they can probably hire people from Brazil, okay, because that's more culturally same. But in
Mm.
most other countries, if they had to go up to 200 to say even 500 people, they would find talent. But if they wanted
Mm.
to hire beyond 500, say go to 1000 people, say 1 2 3 years from now, India is a no-brainer. There's no
Mm.
other market in the world where you can have that bandwidth. So some of these advantages are there, and therefore companies come, but cost is no longer the
Yeah.
driver. Okay, so you
Yeah.
have to be as good as the people in the valley, if not better. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the scheme. So I think if the biggest problem is setting expectations to uh, the aspirants, saying that, oh, you can't get the same role as your batchmate did 3 years back.
Okay. Very interesting. I mean, a couple of thoughts coming out of that those points on what has changed for people. One of the questions that I get typically asked is, or rather, this is a statement that I hear and also feel through the workshops that I run for typically candidates who are in their mid to senior levels, is it's very hard to keep tab on how the world is changing. Harder if you are someone who has spent longer time in an organization. And when you look around in the, like, for example, if you're a 30-year-old and if you want to upskill yourself, there are dime a dozen courses that are available. If you go slightly more higher, you may have some C level programs that are available across today with the advent of global education system, you get to study sitting in India a course done by Stanford. So all of that exists. But for this crowd that we spoke about just now, there is very little that is available for them to be aware about what are the changes that are happening. And most often, when you see, they would remain stuck thinking and imagining a world that perhaps existed 5 years ago. That's what I heard you also say. What should someone do? What is it that someone feeling that, oh, what just hit me? I don't even know. How do I then now come out of it and make sense or be relevant in the world that is operating? And am I even using the right playbook to operate? What should people like them do? I mean, what are the avenues for them to seek help?
Yeah, I think you allude to a real uh, tough question, and especially since the advent of AI. Okay,
Yeah.
these are the conversations I've been having with clients early as of 2025 and
Mm,
2026 now is totally different because
mm,
no longer are organizations growing linearly now. Okay, if
yeah.
earlier a company had plans to double its turnover, um, it was very obvious that okay, we need to double the staff. Okay,
Yeah.
and but now questions are coming in. Should we really, if we had a team of 10 people, should we really be hiring 20, or now can we continue to have 10 people, and why not 5 or 10 agents?
Agents. Yeah.
Okay. And so now this is becoming a very tricky thing because you are used to a career where you are getting promotion every 2 3 years with
Mm,
very little delta uh, effort or the thing, and suddenly the organizational pyramid is not only becoming smaller,
mm,
but on the other side we also have a matrix organization where there are enough senior leader positions. So it becomes a survival of the fittest. And so now it's almost like when you study in school, okay, we are quite happy getting 60% marks, 80% marks, and as long as you're the class first. But moment you finish your 12th, it became a
the
competitive
level playing
exam.
field changes.
Even at
Yes.
99.75%, you don't get into the Indian colleges. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's the situation now. We now
Mm,
have understanding there is very little flab which most organizations can afford, and therefore every role is now becoming very, very tightly contested, and people always want to raise the bar of the quality.
mm,
So when they're hiring, when they're shopping around for new people, they definitely want talent which is significantly better than the internal person and who is likely to grow that. So it'll be surprising. I mean, while there is a flip side to it also. For example, I'll last 6 months we've been working on several mandates for different multinational companies setting up centers of excellence for AI. Okay, which basically mean A, you need somebody with extremely competent domain expertise plus an experience in AI. Okay, and and now as the interviews are proceeding, second round, third round, okay, the NRIs are asking questions. Hey, uh, how does this fit into the global state? Who owns the process? Who owns the tech stack? Okay, which what is the total cost of compute? And they are asking very pertinent questions, which the client is realizing only after coming there. Okay, that
mm,
this is what it needs to roll out the rest of the project. And so the general story they come back and tell me is the candidate is rejected, but often I have candidates themselves backing out because they feel that the employer isn't as clued in for the journey ahead. So today, that's the biggest. The speed of change is so much, and like you said, doing courses, you'll be surprised, Gopal. Ever since AI has totally changed the game, it's actually very ironic that
mm,
companies are sitting on ceremony when they adapt AI. with only 20 to 25% in the best of estimates of organizations having implemented AI. But
True.
if you look at the retail side, the employee, almost 50 to 60% in the most conservative have already started using AI. Okay.
Yeah.
And so it's now they're also equally concerned about joining which companies are going to be on the cutting edge technologies. So these are issues which are becoming more pertinent. Okay, if
Mm.
earlier jobs were a kind of a thing you picked up for emotional stability or emotional reasons, today it's become a strategic choice. So just as employers are weeding out employees, job seekers also are investing time to choose between which employer to join. And if I were to
Yeah.
kind of run through today's situation, say, I mean, if you look at the GCC story, okay, say take a city like say Bangalore or Hyderabad, any decent professional can have at least 20 different choices of GCCs in Bangalore, and he could choose
True.
20 in Hyderabad.
True.
And if the
True.
companies aren't moving as fast, okay, the candidates are able to find opportunities and move faster. So I
Yeah.
have a feeling that where when you come back as coaches or as practitioners in the industry, who we are seeing these kind of dynamics happening, our role becomes to translate
Yeah.
the reality to what is the expectation.
Yeah.
So I think it's not just googling and finding out uh, the buoyant market. For each person, it's very important to take the right kind of decision. It boils down to the individual employee to turbocharge his career or her career by taking the right decisions. Okay, I
Yeah.
think that's the. I don't know if I've answered your query, but you kind of get the. It's all happening. If you say Ravi Shastri says, it's all happening right now.
Yeah. 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 No, I hear you, but I think specifically for someone who is really sitting in perhaps in their late 30s, mid 40s, who aren't in necessarily a crisis per se, right? I mean, they're doing their job well. They're not threatened as much by AI. Maybe they are, maybe they are not. What is a medium for them to seek help? I know. I mean, I'm also asking this from a perspective that from that angle that you started AskMenon.com way before the world even thought about it. I'm sure something triggered that. Have you started seeing any significant change, which is a sense of worry for us from that angle? Are people more worried now, and are they coming to you seeking help, or has this been the same forever?
No, no, it's uh, definitely there's a lot more vulnerability. Definitely
Mm.
there's a lot more trust deficit. And like you alluded earlier in the conversation, back then the number of jobs were limited. And
Yeah.
so you had bags full of resumes which came in. Today
Mm.
it's no different. Okay,
Yeah.
and LinkedIn ad within the day you get a few hundred, if not more, profiles for every role. And
Yeah.
believe me, it's simply impossible for any human to go through all those hundreds of resumes and do justice for one role. Okay,
Yeah.
so what happens is a whole lot of systems come in place. You have bots, you have AI, and even before the human being looks at your CV, you get rejected. Okay, and that's something which nobody can understand. But when you and I have so many people reaching out to me and telling me that they have made 150 applications, they have to 200 applications, they have not got even one call.
Yeah.
And it isn't that they are mediocre people or not qualified. They all have the thing. It's just sheer uh, the volume of
Volume.
business. And then, thanks to the uncertainty, people are now looking for it's always, you always want to, there's a fear of missing out. Okay, that if you
Yeah.
stay in a company for too long, okay, are you not honing yourself? So I think there is a lot more availability, and in fact, the difference between say 2000 and 2025 now, we do have a whole lot of returned Indians here, and there are communities
Mm,
of returned Indians. There are there are coaches, of course. There are podcasts like this which educate people
mm,
about the nuances of this. So the
mm.
infrastructure is definitely better, and unfortunately, um, the cost of not being informed is also higher.
Much higher.
Okay,
Very true.
because
Very true.
I would even say that it's not, you're not losing a few months of time trying to discover it yourself. It could even compound to a couple
Yeah.
of years of your growth.
Yeah. 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 Agree. And that's the whole purpose with which I started this podcast as well, right? I mean, there are, of course, a lot of conversations that people have. There are a lot of events that people host. There are a lot of insightful conversations that people have as part of the smaller group. But is that accessible to one to many? And perhaps podcast was one of the best mediums to allow me to reach out to many people through wonderful guests like you, right? So thank you. I think it was really interesting to hear your perspectives. I have a rapid fire round, which I typically do with most of my guests, and very simple questions, very pointed answers. That's how this goes. So, given your background experience over several years of being in the search space, if you were to describe the job market in 2026 in one word, what would that be?
A T20 match.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
A T20
See,
match.
cricket has always been the same. They had 11 players, so many
Yeah,
bats. You had specialists then. You had, but now you have, the rules have changed so much.
so
Okay,
much.
that you've got to get impact players coming in, and the the ROI is simply unimaginable. Okay, I remember when we grew up, we had an excellent bowler, Dilip Doshi. Okay, who could not bat for
Mm.
nuts or even field. Okay, but today, if you are a liability, if you are just a specialist today,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah. True, true, true. Very true. I mean, we need all rounders and perhaps all rounders in good at everything, but best at one thing, perhaps. So interesting. A book that genuinely changed the way you look at the world of work.
I'm still. I would rate Reid Hoffman's book. Okay, The Alliance, because that
Mm,
significantly changed the power of choice. Okay,
mm,
and I think it's becoming more and more relevant today. And like we
mm,
said, lifetime employment, people are now changing jobs once in 2 3 years. I personally feel we are now going to a skill based economy where I'm sure your child and my child will probably work with 3 or 4 companies at the same time.
ah,
So so therefore the loyalty is not to an employer but to your own profession, to your own career. I think
yeah.
that's the. So I personally, I never believed it when I saw that book. There's a series of books which Reid Hoffman said, okay, one meant for individuals, one meant for companies, and one meant for um, blitzscaling companies. Okay,
Mm,
so
mm.
yeah, I still feel that's the fundamental turning point for me.
Incredible, incredible. You speak to a lot of senior leaders. One thing that they do or they say that makes you feel that they are not ready yet.
Denial, denial
Mm.
that AI is another fad.
Interesting, interesting.
I
And
think
that
it's
is
here.
something that I had a conversation just yesterday with someone, and they were like, "Yeah, AI is just like a bubble. It is going to burst sometime soon." I was like,
No,
"Okay,
to
if
me,
you keep
it's
thinking
going to
that way,
transform. I would believe it's probably one of those once in a 100 year kind of a thing. Just like
yeah,
how electricity changed, how internet
yes,
changed. I feel this is
AI
going
will
to.
change. Yes,
It will change. I mean, the workers we've already seen. workers are going to change, workplace also will change. Okay, we can't just ignore it. We are already behind time.
Absolutely. And we, and specifically India, is already behind in many ways when it comes to AI. And I really hope we are able to make some really interesting and important policy changes to attract more investments, to attract more skilling for people to not just be consumers of AI, but even designers and producers of AI. If not this, what would AK be doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm still doing helping other people find their calling. Okay,
Good one.
okay.
Okay, okay.
I think personally, I'm fortunate that after the name, a biggest identity we have all got is derived from the job. Okay, and now
Yes.
jobs and careers are becoming increasingly important, and we keep hearing universal basic income, but I don't. Okay,
Yeah.
our signature is our name and our what we do, and so
True.
I
True.
think we there's no choice but all of us to learn, relearn, and unlearn. And I'm so glad that we can share the right examples to whoever we come across.
Yeah. Not just what we do, but what all we do.
Yeah,
Well, welcome to Portfolio Careers, right? I mean,
absolutely.
there is no limit to what all things you can do. Best advice you ever got from anyone?
Yeah, that's more in my entrepreneurial journey. Okay, there are problems out there in the world which needed to be
Mm,
solved, but whether you can do it or you should do it is something you got to debate before jumping into the. I realize that we've got very limited time, very limited
mm.
resources. We'd rather be the best version of ourselves and create the impact with our present resources and time. Because I at times felt like God trying to make jobs better or try to convince clients to take bets on people. Now I know I don't know how to do that.
It was incredible, speaking to you, AK. People listening in would definitely walk away with a lot of ideas and thoughts about, I hate to say this, but how to smell coffee. We have found ourselves in a situation where a lot of people are overwhelmed, is what I mean, the word that comes to my mind right now is they're all overwhelmed about what is happening with them, around them, and are unable to think clearly, perhaps, about how to not just survive, but also thrive in a world like this. So I hope people do get to hear these thoughts, these perspectives, and of course, always available for a conversation. And if someone who is listening to this podcast and wants to reach out to you, what would be the best mode?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Okay, you just have to visit my profile. I'll haunt you.
That's a good one. All right. With that, thank you so much, AK. Really appreciate you joining. And I hope when people listen to this, they find a lot of value. So thank you.
Thank you, Gopal. Thank you for the
Thank you.
opportunity. Wonderful
Yeah.
reflecting on these provocative questions. I'm sure I'll have better answers tonight and tomorrow morning, but I guess it's a journey that we all have to go through. And
Yeah.
to add on to what I'm online and
Yes.
easy to be accessing me.
Reach out to.
Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. What an incredible episode that was. One thing became absolutely clear today. You can't always depend on your company or HR or anyone for that matter to manage your career path anymore. That safety net is gone. As Aki pointed out, this market is a T20 game. You have to be an impact player. You have to know your absolute value, upskill aggressively, and understand that the loyalty today is to your own growth, to your own profession, and not a company logo. If you're thinking comfortably that AI won't touch your job, market shifts won't really hamper your career path, wake up, take charge, build your personal brand, and stop waiting for opportunities to be handed to you. If this episode gave much needed reality check, share it with one friend who needs to hear this much more. Share it with someone who desperately is looking to bring a change in their career. Make sure you hit subscribe on this channel. And until then, happy shifting. Thank you so much. Make sure you hit subscribe and drop a comment below on what your biggest takeaway from this episode was. Thank you so much.